each one of them got a 15-cent package of cigarettes. And that was it. But they got caught. And the probate judge tells the boys, I think y'all need to spend a year in the reform school. And Bola was a member of the city council and a prominent merchant. And he supposedly goes to the judge and says, Judge, if you don't send my boy to the reform school, I'll promise you'll never get in more trouble. The judge says, okay. So he takes him out of school. He's in the 10th grade. And incarcerates him at home.
Was the boy's name Sonny?
His nickname was Son, S-O-N. His name was Alfred Boulware, Jr. His daddy went by the initials A.R. But anyway, his dad lived 6 years, died in 32. And the whole time the boy was, we think, was incarcerated. Nobody ever saw him out. You know, Mel portrayed him in the book as kind of a dodo. But his classmate, who was the older brother of one of my closest friends, told me he's one of the smartest boys in the class. He said at night, and Daddy would go to bed around 7:30, he said we'd go around to his window about 8:30 or 9 o'clock and get him to help us with the homework. And said then on some nights we'd slip him out through the window and take him for a ride. But then they went on and graduated, you know, and left, and they just left him as a recluse, you know. But actually, he had two older sisters. One was married and one was not at the time. But they hired a lawyer after the book came out with the purpose of suing them for defamation of character of a brother. And it never did materialize. The lawyer was sure they didn't have a chance of winning because Nell, you know, swore everything in the book was fiction. So they dropped it. But
how did he incarcerate him? Did he chain him up or something? Or?
He didn't have to back then. He told me to stay at home. He stayed home.
Exactly.
That's back in 1926.
But he was as I understand it, a tall, sort of thin fella. And tell the story again.
I don't know anybody that ever actually. Well, one person claimed to have seen him, a friend of mine, but his daddy ran the Western Auto Store, and he was in high school. And the mother wanted a shortwave radio installed at the house. Well, he took my friend with him, his son, to help him, and they had to run a wire out the house up in a tree for reception. And the house, according to my friend, had a dog trot running through it. And they wanted the radio over here, but to get the wire out, they had to go through a bedroom here and out a window. And he says, my daddy says, take this wire and go through that room and take it out the window. And said, when I opened the door, it says, Son and I were face to face. And said both of us were so scared, he went one way and I went the other. And I said, well, what did he look like? And of course, you know, but apparently he was more like the guy that played his part in the movie, you know. Now, he did tell me one time, he had a friend who lived across the street. The Radley house was on the corner, and there was a big street light back of the house. And they had a big garden back there. And he said that he would visit his friend, and they would climb up on a telephone pole.
To kill a mockingbird. There we go.
And watch him. And at midnight, they'd come out and work the garden. And he told me that Miss Bola would wear an apron and she'd have it up, you know, and she would come out throwing corn to the chickens. Except she didn't have any corn in her apron. And there wasn't any chickens to throw the corn to.
I've heard that too from other people.
Sure enough.
That's fun.
My aunt